This is Gopal Chandra Jha with today's news headlines. Trump's tariff cut sparks relief in India despite scant details. US President Donald Trump's move to slash tariffs on Indian imports sparked a relief rally across the Asian countries' markets on Tuesday, lifting sentiment among exporters and policymakers even as details of the agreement remained scant. Trump announced a trade deal with India on Monday to cut tariffs to 18% from 50% in exchange for New Delhi, halting Russian oil purchases and towering trade barriers. Russia pounds Ukraine energy in diplomatic snub, Zelensky says. President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia on Tuesday of exploiting a US-backed energy truce to stockpile munitions and using them to attack Ukraine with hundreds of drones and a record number of ballistic missiles a day before peace talks. The overnight attack knocked out heating in cities including the capital Kyiv during freezing temperatures as Ukrainian negotiators headed to Abu Dhabi for a second round of US brokered trilateral talks set for Wednesday and Thursday.
Ukraine needs some time to recover from months of Russian attacks to restore its damaged power facilities. Their work was being complicated by bitterly cold temperatures. This electrician said he had worked mostly without days off and often at night. The tech said on Monday one of its coal mining enterprises in the Dnipropetrovsk region had been attacked.
Middle East needs long-term solution, UAE says ahead of US-Iran crisis talks. Regional power United Arab Emirates United urged Iran and the United States on Tuesday to use the resumption of nuclear talks this week to resolve a standoff that has led to mutual threats of air strikes, emphasizing that the Middle East does not need another war. Iran and the United States will discuss Iran's nuclear program on Friday in Turkey, Iranian and US officials told Reuters. On Monday, US President Donald Trump said that with big US warships heading to Iran, bad things would probably happen if a deal would not be reached. A source familiar to the situation said on Tuesday that Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, would take part in the talks along with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Kushner's plans. Ministers from other countries in the region are also expected to attend. India's top court questions WhatsApp policy of sharing user data with Meta entities. India's top court on Tuesday warned it could reimpose a ban on Meta-owned WhatsApp's data sharing with other group entities, saying the messaging app's privacy policy misled users. Two lawyers present in court said WhatsApp has been locked in a dispute with India's antitrust regulator since November 2024 when it fined the company $25.4 million and barred WhatsApp from sharing user data with other Meta entities for advertising purposes for 5 years. India to ramp up purchases of US oil arms aircraft open some farm access. India has agreed to buy petroleum, defense goods, and aircraft from the US while partly opening up its highly guarded agriculture sector under a trade deal, according to a government official, as the two sides reconcile after months of tensions. President Donald Trump announced a trade deal with India on Monday that slashes US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50% in exchange for India halting US oil purchases and lowering trade barriers. Indian regulators says grounded Air India planes fuel switches past checks. India's aviation regulator said on Tuesday that checks on the fuel switches of a grounded Air India Dreamliner jet found them to be satisfactory after a pilot reported a possible defect with the mechanism on one of the long haul jets. Fuel switches were at the center of last year's crash involving an Air India Dreamliner which killed 260 people in Gujarat state and triggered tighter scrutiny of the airline. The switches regulate the flow of jet fuel into a plane's engines. Indian refiners await government advice on Russian oil import halt, sources say. Indian refiners have not been told by the government to stop buying Russian oil and would need a wind down period to complete purchases already in process, two refining sources said on Tuesday following a trade deal with Washington. On Monday, US President Donald Trump announced a trade agreement with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi that included halting oil purchases from Russia but without details on how and when such purchases by India would end. Indian rupee and stocks soared in relief rally after US trade deal. India's finance markets rallied sharply on Tuesday after a trade deal that cut US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50%, which investors said removed a key drag on the country's stock, bonds, and currency. India's benchmark stock index, the Nifty 50, rose 2.5% and the rupee strengthened by more than 1% to 90.2650 per dollar in early trading. The yield on the country's 10-year benchmark bond declined 5 bps to 6.72%. In India, US trade deal slashes tariffs seen lifting exports market sentiment. US President Donald Trump announced a trade deal with India that slashes US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50% in exchange for India halting Russian oil purchases and lowering trade barriers. Trump said the deal involved higher Indian purchases of US energy, coal, technology, and farm products and is the first phase of a broader pact to be negotiated later. Gold set for biggest daily gain since 2008. Silver also rebounds. Gold and silver prices rebounded sharply on Tuesday after a steep sell-off over the previous two sessions, and the bulletin was on track for its biggest daily rise since November 2008 as bargain hunters stepped in amid resilient underlying fundamentals. Spot gold rose 5.1% to 4,901.75 dollar per ounce by 9:36 a.m. ET, 1436 GMT, recovering from Monday's low of 4,403.24 dollars, but still trading below last week's record higher of $5,594.82. India's Bajaj Finance post-profit drop on higher provisions sees credit cost improving. India's Bajaj Finance reported a surprise decline in quarterly profit on Tuesday as the non-bank lender ramped up provisions to strengthen its balance sheet even as it expects credit cost to improve going forward. The non-banking financial company reported a 6% year-on-year drop in consolidated net profit to 39.78 billion rupees, 440.83 million dollars for the quarter ended December 31. Analysts on average had expected a profit of 51.28 billion rupees per data compiled by LSEG. Indian drug maker Mankind Pharma posts higher quarterly profit on strong chronic drugs demand. Indian drug maker Mankind Pharma reported a higher third quarter profit on Tuesday, driven by strong domestic demand for its drugs used for treating long term illnesses. The company, which makes Gasofast antacid tablets and Manforce condoms, said its consolidated net profit combined to 4.09 billion rupees, that is equal to $45.3 million for the quarter ended December 31 from 3.8 billion rupees a year ago. Washington slashed its tariff on Indian imports to 18% from 50%. President Donald Trump robs New Delhi of autonomy over its energy purchases, but it removes a crushing overhang for the rupee. India at least emerges more connected to the global trading system than it was before. Elon Musk engineers his sky high meme machine. Elon Musk has two problems. They might have one out of this world solution. The planned listing of his rocket maker SpaceX will finally bring the ascendant near near monopolist public, but could use a bold new growth story to justify a worth exceeding $1 trillion. Meanwhile, XAI, his social network and artificial intelligence effort, is incinerating cash. Merging the two, as Reuters reported, is under consideration, could conceivably solve both issues. More importantly, it would create the kind of outlandish hype that Musk excels at turning into astronomical valuations. India's exports to get boost with US cutting tariff. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. US President Donald Trump's decision to slash tariffs on Indian goods to 18% augurs well for the country as it will boost exports, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said Tuesday. So actually our exports will pick up now. That is my expectation, along with having found new markets where they will continue to operate, she said in an interview to PTI videos. India-US trade deal to boost leather footwear exports, CLE. The Council for Leather Exports (CLE) on Tuesday said the announcement of the India-US trade deal after a free trade pact with the European Union will help boost exports as domestic products will become price competitive in American markets. Duties on India's competitors are high. Major countries that compete with Indian labor-intensive sectors in the global markets include China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and Thailand. India gets good trade deal with US interest of agri and dairy sectors protected, said Goyal. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal on Tuesday said India has got a very good trade deal with the US better than competitors without compromising interest of the agriculture and dairy sectors. Without giving details of what has been agreed with Washington, Goyal said the trade deal is in the final stages and an Indo-US joint statement will be issued shortly detailing the contours of the agreement. Rahul on Indo-US trade deal, PM buckled under pressure to sell out farmers' blood and sweat. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi on Tuesday alleged that Prime Minister Narendra Modi buckled under US pressure to finalize a trade deal and sold out the hard work of the Indian farmers through the agreement. Addressing reporters in the Parliament House complex after he was not allowed to speak in the Lok Sabha as he insisted on quoting from an article that cited former Army Chief M.M. Narawane's unpublished memoir. Gandhi also said that it is for the first time in history that the leader opposition has not been allowed to speak on the president address. In a post on X, Gandhi said PM Modi is compromised. PM is too afraid to let me speak in Parliament about Narawane, Epstein files, and how he has surrendered on tariffs. Stock markets cheer India-US trade deal. Sensex zooms 2,072 points. Nifty settles above 25,700. Benchmark stock index Sensex zoomed 2,072 points while the broader Nifty closed above the 25,700 level on Tuesday after India and the US agreed to a trade deal under which Washington will bring down the reciprocal tariff on Indian goods to 18%. Adani Group Italian major Leonardo to set up helicopter manufacturing ecosystem in India. Adani Group and Italian major Leonardo on Tuesday announced a strategic partnership to establish an integral helicopter manufacturing ecosystem in India as the diversified group strengthens its presence in the high growth potential aerospace sector. The announcement comes a week after Adani Defense and Aerospace and Brazilian major Embraer announced a strategic collaboration that aims to set up a regional aircraft manufacturing facility in the country. Adani Defense and Aerospace and Leonardo on Tuesday inked a memorandum of understanding for the partnership of an event in the national capital. An Indian origin man will be stripped of his American citizenship after it emerged he had concealed information from federal authorities that he had sexually assaulted a female passenger in his taxi cab. Gurmeet Singh, who became a naturalized US citizen, had concealed and misrepresented in the naturalization application that he had previously kidnapped and raped a female passenger of his taxi cab. The United States filed a denaturalization action in the Eastern District of New York against him this week. Workers at major Bangladeshi port strike over lease to foreign operators. Workers at Bangladesh's main Chattogram seaport on Tuesday called an indefinite strike against Mohammad Yunus's interim government's move to lease out one of its key container terminals to a foreign operator. This is a suicidal decision, Chattogram Bandar Rokha Sangram Parishad coordinator Humayun Kabir said while announcing the stoppage, as the government appeared determined to lease out the new mooring container terminal NCT to Dubai-based operator DP World. He said the complete work abstention would continue for an indefinite period until the government backtracks from its position. Indian origin businessman on trial in drink spike case in UK. An Indian origin businessman connected with a portfolio of restaurants in the UK is on trial in London accused of spiking the drink of a woman at a nightclub 2 years ago. Vikas Nath, 63, associated with fine dining Indian restaurants in London, denies the charges of trying to administer a substance with intent and possession of a Class B dangerous drug. According to court reports in the UK, Southwark Crown Court was told this week that Nath admits spiking the drink only to relax the woman in question. Nepal government withdraws controversial social media bill from parliament. The Nepal government on Tuesday decided to withdraw the controversial social media bill which was under consideration in parliament. The social media bill 2025 registered by the then government led by deposed Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli last year drew criticism from all quarters over its intention to control social media platforms. A cabinet meeting on Tuesday decided to withdraw the bill. Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal, who is also the government spokesperson, told media persons. Madhuri Dixit's Tripti Dimri to star in Netflix comedy thriller Ma Bahan. Actors Madhuri Dixit and Tripti Dimri will headline Netflix's upcoming comedy thriller film Ma Bahan, which also features Ravi Kishan. The movie was announced by Netflix on Tuesday during an event unveiling its India slate for 2026. Manoj Bajpayee to star in Netflix's crime thriller Ghuskor Pandit. Actor Manoj Bajpayee will star in Netflix's upcoming crime thriller Ghuskor Pandit, a film that reunites him with the Special 26 filmmaker Neeraj Pandey. Pandey serves as a producer on the new movie, which was announced at Streamers Next on Netflix 2026 event here. Vikramaditya Motwane, Kiran Rao, Vishal Bharadwaj, and Shakun Batra team up for Lust Stories 3. The third season of Netflix's popular anthology movie Lust Stories 3 will have 4 stories with directors Vikramaditya Motwane, Vishal Bharadwaj, Kiran Rao, and Shakun Batra exploring relationships and intimacy through their creative lenses. R. Madhavan to headline Netflix's South drama series Legacy. Netflix on Tuesday announced Legacy, a South Indian crime drama series headlined by R. Madhavan. The streamer unveiled the show during the Next on Netflix event where it unveiled its India slate for the upcoming year. Legacy centers on an aging patriarch who races against time to secure his empire by choosing a successor before rivals tear it apart. The series explores power, ambition, and succession within a crime-driven family setup. T20 World Cup warm-up: Zimbabwe, Oman, Nepal win their respective games. Zimbabwe rode on Ryan Burl's half-century and seamer Richard Nagrava's three-wicket haul to beat the Netherlands by 29 runs in their opening warm-up game at the Premdasa Stadium here on Tuesday. Batting first, Zimbabwe managed a decent 178 for 9, with Burl scoring 50 of 31 balls with 6 fours and Diane Myers contributed 32. And for the Netherlands, seamer Logan 1 week took 3 for 22 in 3 hours. Thank you for watching the news headlines. Please don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you.